This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNG studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
Well, we have a race on our hands, and it's not just the presidential race. It's not state house and state senate seats scattered across Alaska. It's not necessarily Don Young and Elise Galvin that we're going to talk about this segment. We're going to talk to probably the most prolific, I think the most important beyond the presidency, and that's our incumbent U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan's race. He's doing an exceptional job. I've literally not heard from anybody in my circles. Yeah, maybe I'm center to center right. Not one. Crickets negative of Senator Dan Sullivan. I mean, this guy's like a mensch, what he's been doing. And yet in comes the money, in comes the slander, and we'll get into that. I almost didn't want to do the interview because of my temper, angry at his opponent and team, but I think it's important. U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan, how are you this morning?
Hey, Tom. Great to be on the show again. Thanks for your comments. And you're right. This is going to be a critical election for not just Alaska, but for America. The Senate is the firewall for freedom, and Schumer's telling people that, if they can pick up our seat, and by the way, it's not my seat, it's your seat, that Schumer could be Senate Majority Leader. So a lot's on the line. I look forward to talking about it, but great to be back on the show.
Yes, no, we appreciate the fact that you are working hard and diligently. And one of the things I found of interest, much to my chagrin and others, I think in terms of your 6-year positive record, one of the most indelible ones that's going to help the entire globe is cleaning up our waters. And your efforts, I've heard accusations that you're so hard right. I mean, you've been working with Democrats to that end to get our waters clean. And who needs that more than Alaska? And yet I listened to Al Gross. I watched the entire debate online in Kodiak saying, well, that's not enough and I would do more. It'd be like saying you haven't done enough in the military, and he's not military or veteran, but I would do more. It's like, what planet is he on? What is he talking about? Do you understand what he means?
Well, look, I've been campaigning my tail off with my wife all over the state. I just got back to D.C. Late last night because we're going to move forward on the nomination of Judge Barrett. You want to talk about an accomplishment that I'm proud of, how we've gotten over 220 federal judges on the courts who will protect our Second Amendment rights. She'll be phenomenal on this, Tom. I just had a really good meeting with her about 2 weeks ago. Spent a lot of time talking about the Second Amendment. My opponent is with Schumer. He's already pledged allegiance to Schumer on the on the Second Amendment. They'll shred it as soon as we're sitting here if they gain power. But look, I appreciate what you mentioned on the Save Our Seas Act. I've passed legislation last Congress. It's all about ocean cleanup. You're right. Gross with another one of his gross lies. And man, does this guy lie. Him and Schumer, I don't know who's a bigger liar. But and now we are on the verge of passing our Save Our Seas Act 2.0. Which is considered the most comprehensive ocean cleanup legislation ever. And I got the president motivated on these issues. So it's an important issue for Alaska, for America, for the country. But here's the broader issue. We've gotten really big things done, and they're the things that I ran on, if you remember, in 2014, opening ANWR, reopening the NPRA, Donlin Mine, Ambler Road, King Cove Road, rebuilding our military and Coast Guard in a huge way, $1.6 billion in military construction just in Alaska, protecting our Second Amendment rights. And Tom, you know as sure as I do, if the Dems sweep, they will come after every single one of those things. And they don't even hide it. What I call the anti-Alaska agenda, my opponent will empower that anti-Alaska agenda. I've been fighting it, and we have a positive vision. My opponent won't talk about his vision because we all know it's the anti-Alaska agenda. That's the National Dem, Green New Deal, gut our military, shred our Second Amendment rights. We've seen it. That's what this is about for Alaska.
And these ads, man, I'm sick of them. I can speak for pretty much everybody. Someone else spoke about Dan Sullivan And here's the audio of someone else talking about him. Nothing that Dan Sullivan said. Someone else, the Pebble stuff. It's like, so what? That guy's gone. Dan didn't say anything. Dan said he's opposed to Pebble Mine. Why do you keep playing the clip? Anybody on earth could do that to someone else. So and so said something about someone. So what? You know, I don't get it. I mean, you know what I mean? You didn't say those words. You're against Pebble. Done.
Well, you know, to your point, this is the way they operate. That was one guy, and a dishonest guy, by the way, Tom Collier. And so they make their whole campaign about this. But Tom, here's a huge issue that we got to get out there. My opponent and Chuck Schumer, and this is all Schumer's super PACs, right? And we have documentation of. In the last 3 months, they have dumped, now I'm not exaggerating, this is the number, $20 million. $20 million.
Good Lord.
Into our state. And listen, everybody, we do the forensics on this. 99.9% of that money is not from Alaskans. It's the most far left, radical liberals in America who are dumping their money so he can run these ads. Do you think those people care 1 minute about our state? No, those are the people who want to make Alaska a national park and shred our Second Amendment rights. What they care about, though, and why they're in Alaska, is they care about power. They care about power, and they want Schumer to be Senate Majority Leader, and they see my opponent as somebody who is a tool that can get them there, and let's face it, somebody who actually believes in the far left agenda. The one thing you mentioned, how they're running an ad about a guy who said something about me, which was a lie. If you see our ads, we actually run ads about Al
what
Gross
he
in
says.
his own words.
Yeah, that's what I love. That's the truth.
It's the truth because he's saying it. But here's the deal: we got him on these Zooms, and by the way, there's more in the news today on Medicare for All. And he tells these lower 48 liberals exactly what they want to hear on far left issues. It's his words, not my words, not some liar's words, his words. And he would never say this stuff to Alaskans. It's just that he's now been caught. You know, I'm for Medicare for all. My values are to the left. I'm going to caucus with Chuck Schumer. We have a recent one where he said, I sat down with Chuck Schumer, and he is actually excited about the prospects of the Green New Deal. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
You can't
The
make
Green
it
New
up.
Deal will destroy us.
And
So,
my friend, we're talking with
that's
U.S.
what-
Senator Dan Sullivan. Dan, let me tell you this, too. I had a buddy that we watch all the different debates because it's the day job at Optima. And he was saying, you know, you're U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan, such a smart, you know, you got the look, you got the family, you got everything. You're a good person and you're an intellect, but you're also down to earth with people, legitimately, genuinely. And my friend's out of state, and he said he's like a Pence. And I said, boy, that's a compliment. I'll relay that to the senator. And he said, no, but even in a debate, because my friend watched the Kodiak debate, and he said, that Al Gross, Dan would be kind to him, and Al would come out really pejoratively. Well, you know, that's what you get when you get an attorney in office or whatever he said. He said a lot of punches like that, and you were polite and just listened, just like what Kamala Harris did to Pence. It was disrespectful, and the public doesn't want to see that. I don't think Gross is a nice guy. And the fact that, I mean, I saw your ad that he had one point he lived in California. I mean, he's not a physician. If he really cares about healthcare, why isn't he helping people? He's whatever he's doing now. I don't know what he's doing. But I think he's a charlatan. I really do.
Well, look, the other issue that I think really resonates with Alaskans is, you know, I've spent my life serving the country and the state that I love, right? I got 26 years in as a Marine infantry officer. You know, I don't brag about that. I don't highlight that a lot, but I'm still in. I'm the only member of the U.S. Senate still serving in the military. I've deployed all over the world, like tens of thousands of Alaskans, because we have more vets per capita than any state in the country. And, you know, in the Valley on the Kenai, the numbers are through the roof, literally highest in the country.
Huge.
And we understand the issue of service over self. That's what our military members do, our veterans, their families. This guy, who nobody knew about 3 months ago, is all about self over service. He spent 2 decades, Tom, charging Alaskans astronomical amounts for their health care. He talked about high health care costs. He admitted making $2.5 million working 3 days a week.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. He's so self-aggrandizing. I know Senator Sullivan's tough on time, but I think he can stay with us just a couple more minutes. I want to highlight some of his profound successes. We have U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan right here on the Tom Anderson Show.
This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNG studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan continues with his interview with us from Anchorage to the Valley. I know folks are interested in this. If you haven't voted, please vote. And if you plan to vote, please vote for U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan. It's a no-brainer. What I was going to say before we came to the break was that opioid addiction and trying to stop that, meeting with people across the state. Dan Sullivan has been out here several times. I've talked to people who are advocates. One user who was on my show, and she said, this guy, is he a Republican? I didn't think Republicans cared about that. I said, oh, he cares. Dan, Senator Sullivan, you, from waters to ecosystems to responsible natural resource development to working with cities and the governor and the president to opioid addiction, I don't know how you sleep. I mean, you've really covered it all in your one term only.
Well, Tom, I appreciate that. And, I did get recognized by the University of Virginia Center for Effective Politics as the 9th most effective U.S. Senator, the only freshman. So I'll mention that. But look, a lot of this job, you come in and you know what you want to get done, right? I ran on rebuilding the military, resource development, getting ANWR, NPRA, all these things, historic things, opening the Tongass. Heck, we got that done. We've been trying to get that done for 25 years down in Southeast. But, I will tell you some things, and I care deeply about the issue of domestic violence and sexual assault and have had legislation passed on that. But sometimes in this job, you learn on the job as well if you're listening. And I learned a lot about our fellow Alaskans who are struggling with opioid and other addiction and mental health issues, and just really, really felt a bond to try to help these brave Alaskans going through recovery, and very much focused on that. You might remember the Wellness Summit we put out in the Valley
Sure.
there a couple years ago. We had over 500 people show up to get information, get their ideas. I co-sponsor what's called the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, and I am a champion for these families and brave people who are going through addiction, and I learn from them. And so I'm going to continue to do that as their senator, but I appreciate you raising that one.
One of the questions, I have a national PR publicist. She's phenomenal, been a mentor, and her name's Maria Sliwa. Her brother actually is Curtis, the founder of the Guardian Angels, who I've interviewed. And Maria said, you have U.S. Senator Sullivan on. Could you ask him what he thinks? And I know what your answer is going to be, but just for the record, these Uyghurs and what China's doing to them. And we've had Robert Spaulding on, the retired general, with his book about China. And one of Maria's clients is the ambassador of East Turkestan, which, of course, Chinese don't recognize, but that's where the Uyghurs are. And he's the prime minister. When we look at what China's doing with the Uyghurs, or, bullying Taipei, Taiwan, or, of course, Hong Kong, or Nepal, I can't keep up with all the places. Is that something of concern? And aren't you a hawk on that, on foreign relations and protecting U.S. interests?
Absolutely. I mean, on China, I can tell you without a doubt, I was one of the original hawks here. When I got to the Senate 6 years ago, I used to give a speech about once a quarter, once a month even, saying, hey, look, I know we got these challenges with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. I'm a Marine. I've deployed out to the Middle East. But the big challenge right now is China and the rise of China, and not enough people are talking about. As a young Marine infantry officer, I deployed, Tom, what was called the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. We actually were sent to the South China Sea, actually sent to the Taiwan Strait during the height of what's now referred to as the third Taiwan Strait crisis. So I was there defending America's interests in the Taiwan Strait with a bunch of Marines. And So I've been doing this for a long, long time. But
You get it. No,
look,
yeah, and the Uyghurs, Trump brought up the Uyghurs. That's why I brought them up, because they're Muslims, but they're just getting like, it's almost like the Holocaust. And then you look at what they're doing in Hong Kong, and I know you're a friendly to you've talked about South Korea or the Philippines. My wife's Filipino, as you know, got married last year, or Japan. And then Europe as well, your military background and leadership, and then the nexus to, you've also been an attorney general here and commissioner, but then as a U.S. senator, how would anyone even fathom replacing you with those skill sets? I don't get it.
well, look, here's the one thing, and you're right about the challenge that China's posing to every country in the region, but to us, they're trying to export their authoritarian regime and model to challenge the United States. But here's the most important way we push back. We have very strong allies in South Korea and Japan, and that's really important. Australia, heck, even Vietnam and India now want to be allies with us because they're worried about China. But one of the big reasons Iran, Tom, you might remember in 2014, Obama Biden cut defense spending by 25%. They gutted the military. One of the first challenges I dealt with as a new U.S. Senator was the Obama administration wanting getting rid of the 425, the 4th Brigade of the 25th Infantry Division there at Jaber. I stopped that, right? I put a hold on every person who was up for their confirmation, including the Secretary of the Army, the Chief of Staff of the Army. We kept those guys. It's a great unit, 5,000-member unit, only airborne brigade combat team in the entire Asia Pacific. But here's a big one. You're forgetting. You're way too humble, Senator. Here's your biggest claim to fame, in my opinion. For decades, and God bless Don Young and Lisa Murkowski and Ted Stevens and Frank Murkowski, but there was one man, and I remember it because I have a lot of friends that were helped by you, veterans in need that were disabled in the hospitals. You said, I'm going to correct what's been happening, and you did, and they're getting better health care. Oh, we're doing a lot better on the veteran side. You know, I'm very proud of that. Out in the Valley, we finally got doctors to go out to the VA facility there. We're building our VA facilities out throughout the state, and every region of the state. We've getting awards as the most improved. But I will tell you this, our veterans care so much, not just about the health care, but the current occurrence of what's happening with the military right now. And I will tell you this is all about Alaska. This is all about America. And we are rebuilding our military. But just recently, I had a debate on the Senate floor. Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer had an amendment to the defense bill that we were debating on the Senate that they literally, Tom, I'm not exaggerating, you can look it up, they called it the, quote, defund the military amendment. Defund. This is what the National Dems want to do. It was a 15% across-the-board cut, and my Senate colleagues asked me, they said, Dan, we know how much you care about this. You go debate Bernie and Schumer on this. I did. We crushed them. Their amendment failed 75 to 25, something like that. But here's the bottom line. My opponent, who doesn't know anything about the military, by the way, never served a day in his life.
Yep, for sure he doesn't.
But he will empower that movement. That is an anti-Alaska, anti-military movement that they will institute if Chuck Schumer becomes Senate Majority Leader. And, Tom, right now, the Senate has been the firewall for freedom in America. We are confirming judges. We are rebuilding our military. We're opening access for economic opportunities in our great state, protecting the Second Amendment. All of that is at risk.
Yep.
And it literally might come down to the Senate seat, your Senate seat, not mine, in the great state of Alaska.
And not just here, Senator, your friends, Cory Gardner in Colorado. Who doesn't love Lindsey Graham? They're all getting challenged, folks. It's not just Dan Sullivan. It's not personal against Dan. It's an agenda. Martha McSally, the Warthog squadron commander. I met her. She was a client. These are, you look at these folks, and she's in Congress. We helped her with some fundraising. There's some really all-star, hardworking senators, and they're getting tackled across the nation, aren't they?
That's absolutely right. The far left is energized. And again, you're seeing it here. My opponent has gotten, think about that, for Alaska, 3 months, $20 million. None of it from Alaskans, It's from people who don't care about our state at all. They care about power. What we care about, what you and I and everybody else listening, Tom, we want a bright future. We want opportunity for our kids. I keep saying, and I believe this in my heart, our best days are ahead of us. If you look at all the things that we have teed up that can be great for our economy, our freedom, our future, there are so many, but the National Dems, empowered by my opponent, who believes this stuff, by the way, Green New Deal, Medicare for all, we're talking socialism versus freedom.
Yep.
And it's on the ballot in Alaska. It's on the ballot for America. And of course, I would be honored by the votes of everybody listening. And if I can ask one favor, tell your friends, tell your family members, tell your neighbors. We are being outspent probably 5-1 by this hardcore left money that my opponent is a tool of, just getting it because they want Schumer to be Senator.
They want Schumer to be the head. And Dan Sullivan, God bless you. Keep up the good work, U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan. Vote for him, folks. He's the right choice. Tom Anderson Show.